Hey guys, welcome back to another Aussie Buckets video. Today we're going to be showing you how to measure up your machine for one of our hydraulic pin-on thumbs. Let's get into it. Now for our pin-on thumb range, there's 5 measurements we need. Starting off with L, that's going to be the distance from the tip of your tooth all the way up to the middle of the pin here from the dipper arm. Now I recommend chucking on the bucket you want to use with your thumb or your longest bucket to make sure it's going to be long enough. So on this machine, if we were going to use this bucket with our pin-on thumb, we'd measure from the end of one of these teeth up to that pin, and that would get us around a 1.7 meter thumb. The next measurement is W. That's going to be the width of the outside of the ears of the hitch itself, and that's from the widest point of the bushing from this pin to the other side of the hitch. That's just to make sure we make the actual thumb wide enough to fit around your existing hitch. Now on this machine, we've got a flat plating here, which is really easy for us to get a tape on, but on this other side, that's where the pin's locked in. We've got this extra bush sticking out. So to make this one easy to measure, I'm gonna put the ruler on the side here and measure both across. Now the next 2 measurements are X, the biggest bush, and Y, the more narrow bush. The reason we check this is instead of just using the total width, that means that the thumb is gonna sit a little bit to the left due to how much this one sticks out. So what we do is we throw in an extra spacing that can be put on either side just to straighten that thumb out. Now to measure this one off, to start with X, we want to go from the outside of this bush to the widest point of the hitch here before it goes into the dipper arm, just so we've got a consistent spot to measure. Unfortunately, I've got a chamfered edge here, so I will need to use a ruler to actually see where that line is. But for most machines, that's going to be easier to do just with a tape. And then from here, I can measure that distance and see that it's about 105 millimeters. And for Y, we do the exact same, but just on the other side. So because of that chamfer, I'll use the ruler again, get that in there so I get a nice line. And I can see on this one, that's 60 millimeters. Now that we've checked those measurements and we know we've got a 60 mil and 105 mil gap, we know the difference is 45 mil. So when Aussie Buckets is making the thumb, they'll also include a 45 mil spacing just to take up that extra distance so the thumb's nice and perfectly in the middle. For the last measurement we need is Z, which is the diameter of the pin on the dipper arm. Now with our hydraulic thumbs, it is going to come with a new pin that will replace this one that's wide enough for our thumb. So we need to know what the diameter that is so it's going to fit into your dipper arm nicely. Now when measuring up pin diameters, we always recommend using a pair of calipers if you've got them. You can use a tape, but if you've got calipers, that's always the best option. So on this one, we've got some exposed pins, so it's as simple as getting the calipers, putting it on the pin and getting the measurement, where we've got 80 millimeters on this one. Now, if you can't get a good measurement on your pin because you don't have it exposed, there's a cap on the end, it's got a bevel, the smartest and safest route is always to push the pin halfway out of the dipper arm and measure the middle of the pin that's in the dipper arm. That way you'll always get a perfect measurement. Now, if you are ordering a hydraulic implement and it's going to be using the auxiliary lines on your machine, it's worth noting that all Aussie Buckets attachments come with BSB flat face couplers. So if you don't have couplers on your machine or you've got some non-standards like Agri, just chuck that on the declaration form so you can either throw in the correct couplers or a spare set for free to make sure it all fits up nicely when it gets on site. All right, guys, that wraps up the video showing you how to measure out your pin sizes. Now, if you do any further questions, you can either email our team at documents@aussiebuckets.com.au or chat directly to our production team on the mobile number below. Thanks for watching.